In this video, we will learn about pivot tables and pivot charts. Pivot tables and pivot charts are a business intelligence and visualization tool that Excel provides. It's not an add-in. We don't have to install it. It's just available. If you have Excel, you have pivot tables and pivot charts. They allow you to slice and dice data in a variety of different ways. So we're going to use this data called financial sample. It's a made-up data. I did not make it up. It's available on the internet. I think Microsoft made it up to explain Power BI. So we have data on some sales of some products. So these are the products in column C, and these are the gross sales and net sales after discounts. And then there's some segments like government, mid-market, channel, small business, etc. We have some countries, not many countries, just Canada, Germany, France, Mexico, and United States. And we have some products, not too many, Terra, Montana, Paseo, Velo, VTT, and so on. Not too many. Discount band, either none, low, medium, or high. And it looks like this data is sorted on discount band. So these four fields are qualitative. The first three are actually qualitative nominal. This one is qualitative ordinal. And then we have some quantitative columns. And then we have a date column. This is a type in itself. Month number, month name, and a year. Now, Excel has built-in intelligence. It can tell, oh, this is a qualitative variable, this is a qualitative, and it knows that these are quantitative, and it knows that this is date, which is a special type of data. Now here, it will treat this as numbers. It will treat this as qualitative. It will treat this as numbers. So before I show you how pivot tables work, I want to show you that we have named this range from A1 through P700. Okay, so this has 700 rows, 701. So the first row is for headers, and then another 700 for the data. So this range has been given a name called financials. So if I press F5, so go to financials. If I click on that, it selects this data. If I did not name it, then I'll have to know what is the range in terms of the cell addresses. So A1 through P701. But now that I've given it a name, I don't have to remember it's A1 through P701. Okay. So before I click on Insert Pivot Tables, I want to make sure that my cell pointer is within this data. It should not be outside, either to the right or below the bottom. So it cannot be here, for example. It needs to be somewhere here, anywhere, as long as it's within the data range. Okay, so how do we create pivot tables and pivot charts? We click on Insert, and then we look for Pivot Chart, and we click on Pivot Chart and Pivot Table, and I see this dialog box. I see that it picked up financials because that was a range it recognized. So I've selected this table or range, and I want to create the pivot tables and pivot charts in new worksheet. So I click OK. So I'm transported to sheet 2. It just created sheet 2. And within sheet 2, I see an area here for pivot tables. This is the area for pivot table. And this is an area for pivot chart. And this is movable. And then I have an area where all the field names show. And it picked up these field names from row 1 of our selected data. And then I have these four quadrants called filters, legend, axis, and values. It's important that we understand these four quadrants. So remember I told you Excel recognizes which of these fields are qualitative and which are quantitative. So if I happen to select a quantitative field, such as sale price, it's going to automatically put it in the fourth quadrant called values or sigma values. So sale price is definitely quantitative, so it puts it there. If I select gross sales, it puts it there. But if I select it segment, it does not put it there. It puts it in axis because it knows that it is not a value, it's a qualitative variable. So now we understand these two quadrants, values and axis. So if it's quantitative, it goes under values. If it's not, it goes here. What about date? Date also, it's not quantitative, so it puts it here. Notice that date automatically got split into years, quarters, and date. Okay, so it just knew that date can be broken up into years, quarters, and date. So let's pick gross sales. So it knows that as quantitative, it puts it here. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing the total of all 700 rows, sum of gross sales, approximately 1.27 billion. And we see a column chart of this. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to slice and dice this data into segments or products or countries or some combination of segment, product, and countries, or discount band, or date. So date is also one of the variables you can use for slicing and dicing. So if we wanted to slice this data on segment, there you go. It puts segment on the axis and it has a column chart for this. So you see the table as well as the chart, the two are equivalent. If I wanted to slice it not by segment but by country, we unselect segment and pick country. If I wanted to slice it by product, there's product. If I wanted to slice it by discount band, there's discount band. If I wanted to slice it by date, it slices it by date. 2013, 2014. Within 2013, I can expand it to quarter three. Within quarter three, I can expand it to September. Quarter four, October, November, December. So we don't have any data for August of 2013. September is the only month in quarter three of 2013 for which we have data. 2014, we have data on quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. So we are slicing and dicing the data for every quarter. If I'm only interested in the year, no further slicing and dicing by quarters, I can remove it from here. If I don't want to see the month, I can remove that also. So you can play with this in many different ways. If I wanted to get them back, you can get them back. Okay. So let's do sales, and we will slice and dice it by more than one qualitative variable at a time. So I slice it by segment, and then within each segment, I want to slice it again by country. So I select country. So you can see the data for each segment, country. Now, if I wanted to reverse this, I wanted to see for each country segment, I just have to switch this here, and it changes. So now we understand this axis, the third quadrant, and the values. What about these two, filters and legend? So when we have two qualitative variables, we can either put them both on axis or we can put one on the axis and the other as legend. So you see, you just have segment on the x-axis and the country is part of the legend. And of course, you can see how the shape of the table changed. A minute ago, the table was all vertical like this, and now it is horizontal like this. And also, the legend is such that you can select which countries you want to see. So the default is select all, but if I'm only interested in Canada and United States, you can just see the sales for Canada and United States. You can just see United States if you want. Okay. Now, when you put a variable in legend, it provides you a way to filter from here, or you can just put it under filter, so there'll be no legend, and you can do the filtering from here. So show all. So it is not showing you sliced data by country, but it is showing you the total of all the countries that you've selected here. Okay, so if I only want Canada and France, it'll show you the total sales for Canada and France. It will not show you the breakup. So that's the difference between putting a qualitative variable under filters versus putting it under legend. If you put it under legend, you're slicing and dicing it by every value of that qualitative variable. Okay? So we have 4 or 5 qualitative variables, and we can put any of them in any of these 3 quadrants. You don't want to put a qualitative variable under values because that has little or no meaning. So if I put, say, product here, it will take it, but will convert it to count of products, which makes no sense. It's hardly useful. So we want to get rid of it. Now, notice that when we brought in gross sales here, by default it said sum of gross sales because usually that's what we're interested in. But what if you're not interested in the sum? What if you're interested in an average or max or min? So you can click on this drop down menu and click on value field settings and then pick count or average or max or min. So let's pick average. So these are the average sales for small business, mid-market, and so on for Canada, because Canada and France, and it is showing Canada and France separately. Okay. You're also allowed to change the type of data. So right now, this is a column chart, and let's just pick all, or let's just put country here and select all. Okay. And of course, you can do things like put your own title, and you can add access titles and data labels, etc. You can do all of that. All the things you could do on charting, you can do here. And you can also change the chart type. So for example, if you're not happy with this column chart, you can say change the chart type, and you can select some other type like the line chart. Of course, we know that line chart was not a very good choice for this chart because line charts are meant to show trends for which the x-axis needs to be time, but here the x-axis happens to be a nominal qualitative variable. So you don't want to ever show a line chart like that because people will start looking at the shape of the line chart and say, hey, sales are increasing, then decreasing, then increasing. But that's completely meaningless because if I change the order of the values on the x-axis, the shape changes. Of course, if instead of segment, I had time, so date, on the x-axis and get rid of segment, put it in the legend. So now the line chart actually makes some sense. So that's okay. Of course, you can change it to any other type. We could change it to a pie chart if you wanted to. Okay, so just to show you that the column chart was just the default chart, but you're allowed to change. But when you change it, be careful that you're picking an appropriate chart, not just any type of chart. Okay. So that's how pivot charts work. You can put all the quantitative variables here. And you can put multiple quantitative variables here, not just one. You can change whether you want the sum or the average or count or max or min or product. You can put some variables in legends, some in filters, and some on the x-axis. Okay. And of course, the real work for a manager begins once all the charting is done. How to interpret the chart. Do you see any patterns, trends? Do you get some insights, some intelligence, based on which you make some sound business decisions? So the real skill of a manager is in looking at the patterns and changing some decisions or making new decisions based on the intelligence you gather by looking at these visuals. Creating these visuals, when you're first learning how to do, may look like, oh, this is cool. But once you've learned it, creating these visuals is really very easy and does not require much skill. You can teach this to a high school kid or a middle school kid, and they can do this. But you need some business knowledge to be able to look at these visuals and make some sound business decisions. So the interpretation of these visuals is what is more important. Okay, now I just created this visual on this sheet. What if I wanted to create another visual? Well, I'll have to go back here and insert another pivot chart, and we'll create a new sheet, sheet 3, and then I can do another visual. So for each visual, I'll have to create a new sheet. And then, of course, I can rename these sheets appropriately, whatever visual I created here. So this was average sales by year by segment. So I could name it appropriately. Okay? Or I can get rid of this and make it back to column chart and get rid of years and quarters and make it segment and country. So now this is average sales, average gross sales by segment and country. And I can go back to sum there. And of course, I can add a chart title. Sum of gross sales by segment and country. And of course, I can add access titles. So this one is segment, and this one is gross sales in USD. And you can filter by segment, by country. Now this one is sum of gross. So I have nothing here. I could put product, for example. I can put product here. Now I can select my product. Right now all are selected, or I can select just some of them. Just show me the sales of these two products. I'm only seeing the sales for those two products. Okay, so it's quite multidimensional between axis, legend, and filters. And of course, I can add multiple variables within axis and multiple in legend and multiple in filters. But you don't want to make it too complex. It's just to show you how it's pretty versatile and you can play with it. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Thank you.